Alright, I've done pizza a million times on this channel, but never calzones, so let's do that. First things first, we're going to make some pizza dough. This is my usual pizza dough recipe, but I'm doubling up on it, and instead of doing it by hand, I'm doing it in the KitchenAid. And this actually works really well. First of all, it's less of a mess, and on top of that, it's much easier to knead, and it comes out a lot smoother. Obviously, if you don't have one of these, just go ahead and do it by hand, and it'll still come out really good. And once I got all my ingredients in there, I attached the dough hook, and I let this go for about 10 minutes. You want to start at a low speed because you don't want flour getting all over your kitchen, but in the end you get a nice smooth dough that's not sticky at all. And like usual, I'm going to put this in an oiled bowl. I'm very generous when it comes to the olive oil, but you don't have to put too much in there, just enough to coat the entire ball of dough. And I'm just going to cover that with plastic wrap, and I'm going to let that sit in the fridge for about 4 hours, and I will take out the dough an hour before I need it. And right here is ricotta cheese. I removed all of the moisture. I let this sit overnight in a strainer, and as you can see, there was a lot of liquid in there. So you don't want that in your calzone, otherwise it'll be very sloppy. And I'm just going to season my ricotta with some salt, pepper, garlic powder, a little bit of paprika, and a lot of dried oregano. Just go ahead and mix that up, and go ahead and cover it and put it to the side until it's time to use it. Next up is our tomato sauce, and I'm using peeled tomatoes, and I'm just going to puree these with a hand blender until the sauce has no chunks of tomato in them. You can use regular tomato sauce for this, but I really like using the peeled tomatoes. And I'm just going to season this with some salt, pepper, some onion powder, some garlic powder, a lot of dried oregano, I really like oregano, and a little bit of baking soda just to take out the acidity. Now once you preheated your oven to its highest temperature, mine was 550 degrees Fahrenheit, it's time to assemble our calzones. So I cut my dough into quarters, and I'm just going to shape them into balls and use them one at a time. And for this first one, I'm going to do a bacon calzone because I really like bacon. And for once, you don't have to make fun of me for using a rolling pin for this, because it's actually necessary to use it for a calzone instead of a pizza. So anyway, with that, I'm going to take my ricotta mix, and I'm just going to spread that on half of the calzone, and then I'm going to take my bacon, or any filling you want. You can use ham, you can use pepperoni, or any type of veggies you'd like, and then I'm topping it with some freshly shredded mozzarella cheese. I'm going to fold over the other half of my dough like an empanada, and then I'm just going to take a fork and seal up the sides. You want to make sure that the edges are sealed tightly, otherwise you're going to have cheese bursting out of the side of your calzone. And then you're going to cut a slit in the middle to let it air out a bit while it's in the oven, and then I'm going to brush this with some olive oil so that there's a guaranteed browning on the calzones. I place these on a pizza peel lined with cornmeal so that it doesn't stick, and this is going to go on our pizza stone. These baked for about 10 or 15 minutes, but make sure you keep a close eye on them, make sure they don't burn. And while those are in the oven, I'm going to make a garlic and rosemary butter to spread on top of the calzones. And I'm just going to take my butter and my fresh rosemary. I'm going to take a couple of cloves of garlic, and I'm just going to let this cook in there for a couple of minutes until the butter is completely melted. Let this sit for about 5 minutes with the heat off, and then when your calzones are out of the oven, it's time to spread that herb butter all over. The kitchen smells amazing right now. Once that's all done, it's time to cut these things in half and serve it with a side of your tomato sauce. Now, I'm sure it's a no-brainer that these came out really good, better than anything you would get at a restaurant, and cheaper, so definitely make these at home. I recommend them. But do you really think I'm going to leave this video without more garlic and rosemary? No, I didn't think so. There's more to do. So, I'm going to take my extra dough, and I'm going to make a garlic and rosemary calzone. So I chopped up some fresh rosemary and put that into my ricotta mix. I made some roasted garlic earlier. If you want to know how to make this, go ahead and watch my garlic and rosemary pizza video. I'll put that in the description box below, and I'm just going to spread that all over my dough, and then I'm going to take my ricotta, I'm just going to spread that on half the calzone, and then for some extra flavor and texture, I'm putting in some ham. You could also use bacon or pancetta, I'm sure that would be really good. And then I'm going to take my freshly grated mozzarella and spread that on top. And I'm just going to do what I did earlier and fold over the calzone, and you know the rest. Now let me tell you something. This is probably one of the best things I've ever made. This came out phenomenal. The only thing I would change next time is that I would put in a little bit less garlic, honestly. As much as I love garlic, don't spread it all over the dough. Just go ahead and use half of it. So instead of 2 knobs of garlic, just use 1. As much as I love garlic, I promise you it's a very strong flavor. And also, using the ham was a really good idea, but I would honestly use hickory smoked bacon next time. I feel like that would be even better. But seriously though, this is great. You gotta try it. I'm drooling right now, and I know I'm making a big mess, so this is the image I'm gonna leave you with. Just a big, cheesy mess, and me just enjoying the heck out of this calzone. So I'm gonna need some alone time. I hope you all enjoyed this one. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you all next week.